I go? What will I do?
That's a question that's heard a lot, and it's usually referring to exit strategies when you've started the full-time RV life. Let's talk about that. Hi, I'm Felix.
And I'm Cindy.
And we are
The
Roaming
Roaming
Gomes.
What is an exit strategy? First time I heard it, I thought it was referring to what we do at work. Sometimes we have patients that are kind of talkative. You could call it that. Kind of talkative. And sometimes we have time to spend quite a bit of time in the room talking and listening to the patients. But sometimes we have other tasks we need to do. So we will get an exit strategy.
Too much talking, 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 too much talking.
Which usually means I tell one of my coworkers, hey, I'm going in this room. Could you call me about 5 minutes from now? That's our exit strategy.
Well, that's not really the kind of exit strategy we're talking about today. But the one that we are talking about is you've now committed to the full-time RV life, and you're out on the road, and you think to yourself, what do I do if I can't do this anymore? Or I don't want to do this anymore?
Start working on an exit strategy.
And to me, that's just a way of saying, I've made a bad choice. I need to figure out a way to get out of it.
Yes, some people start out with that strategy before they even buy their RV. They're like, well, what if it doesn't work? How are we going to get out of it?
Now, I think a lot of people tout this exit strategy that you have to have, that you need to be able to have a way out, a way to get back to whatever life it is you were living. And I don't view that as a necessity. When we started on the road, we pretty much
give it a thought.
No, we pretty much had an entrance strategy, somewhat, but we weren't ever thinking in terms of stopping or going back to sticks and bricks or not doing travel nursing. It was, let's see how this works out at this first contract and go from there.
Kind of a cross that bridge when we get to it attitude.
Right, and I think that's kind of what I would want to tell people going into the RV life. Don't put yourself in a position where you're thinking that you did a wrong thing, so you need to have a way out. Put yourself into a position where you're seeing what it is you've gained by living a full-time RV life, and at maybe some intervals, some predetermined intervals, 6 months, a year. Assess.
Evaluate where you are. Financially, are you doing okay? How are you adapting to living in an RV? Are you enjoying it? Is it completely miserable? Some people really hate it. But it's, in our opinion, it's not a good idea to go into it with a how are we going to get out of it idea, because you don't know. You might love it more than you even thought you would. You might hate it even more than you thought you would. So it's best to take it as it comes.
You might find that it's not something for you. But you might find, like we did, that it is exactly the thing for you. Don't put any of that dark cloud over your assessment or the judgment that you make of it. Look, everybody knows RVs are, quite honestly, a pain in the ass for repairs, as I talked about in my last video. But don't let these little things make the determination for you. Look around at what your life is, at how you're living your life in the RV, and from there determine if it's for you.
It's almost like getting married planning divorce. So I was like, I'm going into it. What's my exit strategy?
Yeah.
But
And that's the thing too. Would people be doing that if they were living in a sticks and bricks? Do you buy a house thinking about how am I getting out of this?
no.
And this is just another one of those life decisions. We're not saying don't plan for your future.
Oh no.
Of course not. That's silly. Think about your finances. Think about where you want to be, what you want to do. But don't be thinking about it in terms of how do I get out of this? It just doesn't seem to make sense to me.
And if you already have the attitude of how are we going to get out, it kind of almost gives you a door out when things go bad. So, something breaks and you're like, okay, this is it, we're out. Instead of pushing through those things like you would in a marriage, pushing through those things,
right,
and going ahead and seeing how it goes further down the road. People are very easily discouraged, it seems, and we would just like to encourage people to go in whole hog. Just go in with the attitude of we're going to get the most we can out of this, and if things go south or if we don't like it, fine, then we'll redirect our course.
And maybe if you are thinking that I have to have, hello Onyx, that I have to have an exit strategy, maybe you should stop before you start this life and reassess right then, right there, if this is something you really want to do.
Make sure your pets are okay with it too.
Yeah, she's got a strategy of trying to get on my lap right now. But honestly, folks, don't allow anybody, not us, not any of the other big YouTube channels, to tell you how you should plan your life going forward. And don't allow the perceived downsides of RV life to rule that you have to have an exit strategy. You are not in an escape room.
Escape, escape, escape!
You're in your life. You just take your house with you. It's a different lifestyle. Remember, you're not homeless, you're houseless. And you're not downgrading your life. In a lot of ways, we upgraded our lives. I mean, she would have never seen the things that we've seen being out on the road and living full-time in our RV. That's all we got for this week. I hope we can continue to bring you less worry
And more wonder.